Filipino radio experience in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio. PHLV Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday once again, June 4, 2021. My name is Josie Moralidad Azaiman from Filipino-American Cancer Care. Welcome po sa ating programang On the Air with FACC. Ngayong gabi ay meron tayong isang bisita na magbibigay ng inspirasyon sa ating mga listeners and followers all over the United States. And of course, gusto kong ipakilala sa inyo yung aking mga co-host ngayong gabi. Siyempre, ayan na. Sabi ko nga may dalawang dimples. And he is really looking good tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Richie Vicente. Hi, Emerich.
Hello, Ate Josie. How are you? Good evening, US, and good morning, magandang umaga, Pilipinas. Thank you so much. It's another Friday, and we're looking forward to our conversation today. I feel like I haven't seen you all for such a long time. You know?
But every day we see each other on Facebook.
Yes.
Okay, syempre, sabi nga nila, Virginia is for lovers. Now, from the state of Virginia, please welcome Ed Logan. Hi, Ed.
Hey, Josie. Hey, Emmerich. I cannot contain my excitement tonight. And to our listeners here in the US and of course in the Philippines, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Kami po ay excited because June is a special month. First is the celebration. This coming weekend is the National Cancer Survivor Day, okay? And of course, the upcoming Father's Day. We want to honor this episode to our fellow Wolfpacks. We will mention them here later. And of course, I will not spill the name of our guest tonight, Emmerich. So you want?
Yes.
Oh, before we do that, Josie.
Of course, before we introduce our special guest tonight, we would like to invite everyone sa summer event ng Filipino-American Cancer Care. On June 18, we are going to have a meet and greet fundraising event with Miss Universe Philippines 2020 and top 21 Miss Universe candidate Rabia Mateo. She is coming here in Washington, D.C. to raise money for children with cancer in Iloilo City, Philippines or Iloilo, Philippines and Rojas. Siya po ay taga Iloilo. And syempre, marami tayong mga beauty queens. This is going to be the night of beauty queens. O ano, Emmerich, may hirit ka?
The next day, what's the event, Emmerich? I want to make sure
The next day, it's our Zumba Contest. And the Zumba is our fundraising. Folks, for all our listeners in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, or even, Delaware, even Carolinas, you guys can join us. It's only $15 a ticket. And if you have, I don't know if we closed the entry yet for Zumba group. Not yet, right? So you're welcome. If you have a group and you know how to Zumba, you can join. There's a lot of prizes to win. And the other thing too is you're helping 4 cancer patients here in the US and also in the Philippines that we're supporting on this benefit Zumba contest. And we have a very, very special guest there. We have Elvis Presley is going to be there.
No.
Yes, we have Elvis Presley, a tribute artist. He's very popular here in Virginia, and his wife died of breast cancer 2 years ago.
Yeah, so it's really amazing. The month is packed, but a different wolf pack we're going to talk about tonight. So Everett, can you please do the honor to introduce our guest tonight?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm really excited to this because I haven't met him yet, so this is gonna be my curiosity right now is like running. This gentleman is a writer, a speaker, and a a PR consultant, and former newspaper reporter. He lives in Maine with his wife and two daughters. Wow. In March of 2018, he was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer and currently on immunotherapy. Recently, he founded Man Up to Cancer, a mission-driven company and online community designed to empower men and those who love them to avoid isolation throughout their cancer journeys. And please, without further ado, I want to introduce to everybody Trevor Maxwell.
Good evening, Trevor.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. What a warm welcome. You guys are amazing. I want to say a shout out to FACC. The work you guys are doing is incredible. And I'm just honored to be here with you tonight. Thank you.
And we are also honored to have you here on our radio show tonight. Trevor, one quick question. Do you have any Filipino friends?
I do now.
That's a very good answer.
Very good answer and a very good question.
Yeah, no, growing up here in the state of Maine, we're about 2 hours north of Boston, right by Canada. We're a very rural white state. So I do have some minority friends, but I don't have any Filipino friends up here. So I'm happy to know you and to know Ed and to know you guys tonight, Rich and Rosie.
Josie.
Josie. That's that one up already. Josie, okay. Thank you. Yeah. So now I have plenty. So this is awesome. I'm so grateful to be connected. And I know you guys are having a powerful impact on your community.
Second question. Have you tasted a Filipino food?
Oh, I'm sure I have. give me some, but I wouldn't be able to tell you them off the top of my head.
Okay. A Filipino food, for example, have you ever tried eating white rice?
Yes.
I think it's all
one of them.
Now you're playing with me.
We're just trying to make you feel comfortable.
Oh, you already have. I'm an easy target, and I'm very gullible too.
Okay, Ed.
Sure. I will ask you the first question. It's more on background info.
Yeah.
So Trevor, how big is your family? Like, is your parents like real from Maine, or they are from other states, and then they just planted there in Maine? So if you can give us background on that.
So I'll take you way back, Ed. In the 1700s, some people up in Scotland were fighting with the people in England, and we were on the Scottish side, and we were dumb enough to get captured, but they sent us over here to New England. And so I come from Scottish ancestry, and they worked as laborers over here, and then they got their own land. And so here we are about 10 generations later, living in Maine. I have a pretty big extended family, lots of cousins, aunts, uncles, all in Maine and New England. And I live here on the coast, right on the ocean, on the Atlantic Ocean, with my wife and our two daughters. They are going to be 16 and 14 this summer. So we have a very busy household. I'm outnumbered three ladies to one. But with Father's Day coming up, I'm expecting loads of attention.
Okay.
So how do you find the lobsters in Maine?
You know what? My father
is a myth.
so my father is a legendary lobster eater. He can probably have 10 lobster rolls in one sitting.
Wow.
I'm not. Everyone thinks if you're from Maine, you have to eat lobster. I don't really like lobster. It's a big secret. I don't really like lobster, to tell you the truth, but most of my family loves it.
Okay. Now I understand, just like me, you're also a reporter or a journalist. What motivated you to become a reporter or journalist?
Thank you for that question. Storytelling. Ever since I was a young kid, I enjoyed telling the stories of others, really getting to know people and then being able to tell a tale based on their journey or their life. And so that's what I ended up doing for most of my career. I was a newspaper journalist, and I got to meet tons of fascinating people and tell stories of their lives. Then unfortunately, the newspaper business here where I'm at really went through quite a crisis with lots of job cuts. So about 10 years ago, I started my own freelance writing business so that I could do my own thing and not have to worry so much about the newspaper industry. Plus, when I did my own business, then I could spend more time with my daughters and their events and activities and not have to be at the office all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And this
absolutely.
is what I've always been telling everyone, that if you want to be rich, don't be a journalist.
Oh, again, Josie, truth to that.
So,
This is more like of a passion, right, Trevor?
yeah.
Well, and it's a great foundation. I'm so glad I did it.
Uh-huh.
I was a journalist for about 15 years, and it provided a foundation to do everything I'm doing now with Man Up to Cancer, and that's the stuff that I'm doing with my writing and communicating. All of that came from my journalism training and background and doing that. So I'm glad I did it, but I think I got out at the right time.
Are you the only journalist in the family?
Got to think on that. I believe I am. No offense to any cousins listening that are also journalists now.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Did you invite any of your family to listen in tonight?
I did. Yeah, absolutely. I put out the link, and
do you want to send them a message before we continue on?
Shout out.
A shout out, you know?
I want to say to all the family that's been bringing it, we've had some meals brought over now that I'm on this harsh chemo, and I just want to thank them for supporting us especially with the meals that they've been delivering have been so tasty for everyone here. So thank you, especially
Absolutely.
to my cousins who've come by.
Okay. Now, my question is, how did cancer change your perspective in life?
Oh man, you're dropping the big one right up
know.
front here.
Yeah, I went straight to the point.
You know,
Exactly.
I can't think of a way that it did not change my perspective in life. I was 41 years old when I was diagnosed, and I had not even been to see the doctor for maybe 5 or 6 years. I had no idea that I had anything serious going on. I was just cruising through life, raising kids, being a husband and a dad, and doing my professional work. And then all of a sudden, I started getting more fatigue, and I go in and get my checks, and sure enough, the bombshell happens. Like I have stage 4 colon cancer, and that was more than 3 years ago. And I think it's really redirected everything in my life. First and foremost, I've had to spend so much time being a patient. I've gone through 3 major surgeries, major chemotherapy, immunotherapy. So there's just going through life as a patient is a huge switch from the way I was living before. And that changed everything for the dynamics of my family. And then from a professional perspective, I really had to kind of check out from most of the work I was doing before, really change that. I stopped doing a lot of the previous work that I was doing.
Yeah.
And for a lot of the time in that first year or so, I was just getting through. So, and then I redirected, beginning around 2020, I started redirecting all of my professional efforts into helping other men who are going through cancer. So that's been a big change as well. So really cancer has really changed all aspects of my life. What it hasn't changed is my core self and who I am underneath. In fact, I think in a lot of ways it's really brought more of my true self to the surface.
Mm-hmm. It made you a better person.
Absolutely.
And
100% in terms of my, before cancer, I would spend a lot of time thinking about what ifs and the future and planning, or even the past, spending time in both directions. And then since cancer, I've spent much more time grounded in the present.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor,
You live in the moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trevor, I really appreciate you. Thank you for your exposing your vulnerability to our audience and to us here tonight. And this is really helpful because looking at you, you seem like a strong guy.
6'4",
Yeah.
A
right?
very healthy man.
6'4".
It's 6'4", so
6'4",
that's
220.
a very healthy man, and then suddenly you get this cancer. So if you can tell us a little bit of that story.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm seeing, and then all of a sudden I would have, I would never knew that you have cancer.
Yeah. So what word or what if you can put a little bit reflection. I know it's
Yeah.
hard sometimes to reflect, right? But I just want to give again, as Emmerich mentioning, walk us through on that moment when you had that discussion with the doctor and hearing that big C. What's the emotion that you felt during that moment?
Absolutely. I mean, it's crystal clear, of course. And so this is a little more than 3 years ago. And like I said, like I'm 6'4", 220 pounds. We heat our house with wood. So I'm used to carrying big stacks of firewood from my barn to the house. I mean, always been very active athlete. But then that winter, I started noticing just more and more fatigue. Like I could do less and less. And then I found myself walking up the stairs and just catching my breath. Like, oh, what's going on? So finally I did call my doctor. And again, we'll get into this later with the men stuff, but a lot of men like myself, we feel like we're fine. Like we never go see the doctor. We, no need for that. But finally it got to the point where I had to, and she had me have a colonoscopy. So to check out what was going on with my, cause I took a blood test and it showed I was anemic. I was losing blood somewhere.
Okay.
So I went for a colonoscopy, and even then the doctor took one look. I mean, he's
But
like, "Oh,
Trevor,
go ahead, Josie."
usually you're going to be, you need to do that colonoscopy at the age of 50, right? Now it's 45.
45, yes.
So what was like a warning sign for you?
Yeah, so I was only 41, so I wasn't ready for that test, so fatigue was the only warning sign. But when my doctor had me do the blood work, she saw that some things were messed up with my blood, mostly the anemia. And usually, if you're anemic, you're losing blood from your gastrointestinal system. So that's why she had me go for the colonoscopy, thank goodness I did. So I went for the colonoscopy, and the doctor looked at me and he said, "Oh, I'm sure I'm fine. It's probably polyps or something else." But after the colonoscopy, I had like the drugs kind of wore off, and the doctor said he needed to see me and my wife, and we went back and we sat down, and he looked at us and we knew right away that something was wrong. And he said, it was funny because he didn't say the C word right away. He said, "You have a mass in your colon."
Yes.
And I'm going to need to refer you to oncology and surgeon, because this is a serious mass and you're going to need to have it checked out right away. And I had to look at him and I said, "So what are you saying? Are you saying that I have cancer?" And he said, "Until the pathology comes back, I can't say 100%, but yes, I'm 99% certain that you have cancer."
Did you feel any physical pains aside from fatigue?
No, fatigue was my only symptom, unfortunately. And it was because the place where my tumor was in my colon was in a spot that just is on the right side, and it just doesn't produce symptoms sometimes. So it was only fatigue. And that's why when I had the mass that he saw was already about 4 inches. It was about the size of like a softball.
Yeah.
So it was a very large mass by the time I got diagnosed. And then I also had metastasized to my liver.
Wow.
So to answer Rich's question about the feeling, I mean, I would say the feeling was my wife and I just looked at each other. Yeah. We're young, we're relatively young people in the prime of our lives.
Yeah.
And we just looked at each other and we had no words. We went into a real shock period, and we went out to the car and we sat down and we said, what do we even do? Who do we even call?
Yeah.
We need to tell like our families, and we got to talk to the kids, and we've got to do all this stuff. And then, the shock is there, the sadness is there, the fear, all of it is just hitting you. Thank goodness I wasn't alone. I mean, I'm fortunate and blessed to have a loving wife who has gone through this with me from that day forward.
Did you think about that word, death sentence?
Wow. I didn't right away. I would, later on, as I started getting into my surgeries and
treatments.
I definitely thought like I've written my obituary 20 plus times in the past 3 years. So I definitely have had those feelings of that this is, going to be it for me. But then I always come back to my hopeful nature that I am going to get through this.
Yeah. Every time a person like Ed, you and me, we're cancer survivors.
Yes.
That feeling of being depressed is natural, it's a normal reaction for every human, right?
Yeah.
So true, but people don't talk about that.
And
people don't talk that that's normal.
Which is a stigma that we need to change, because it's okay. Like, and that's where the society needs to play a big contributor to make everybody feels well after all of this journey. The first day that you and your wife went into the car, talk about all of those things running to your head. So let's talk about that. So you got it realized, and you're talking about it. What was the kids' reaction?
They were.
How did you guys relay the message?
Yeah.
Or this to your kids?
You're losing your connection, and
on my side, protective with the kids, so you shouldn't tell with the kids. So how did you guys manage to tell the story or the news to your kids?
Yeah, I think it was we'd made some calls to others, and then the next day we sat down at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And they were so young at the time. They were 12 and 10. So it's a difficult age. So we just gave them the basics. We said, look, Dad has he has cancer. I have a tumor in my intestines, and you know what we're going to do. This is the message since day one. We are going to do everything we can to get this cancer out of me and to make sure that I have a long life with you. And that's our promise to you, is that we're going to do everything we can to do that. And we're going to keep you posted, on what's happening. The first thing is that I'm going to go for a surgery, and then I'll probably do chemotherapy. And just to tell them that they have all the love and support they need, and that we were going to be honest with them. And if they have questions, that we're here. It wasn't scripted. We didn't really have a guidebook for it. It was more of just an open, honest conversation about this new thing in our lives. And they, we all kind of came together in a big hug, and we shared some tears. And then I think we watched a family show. We tried to make it a normal night, like sat down on the couch and maybe watched The Amazing Race or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Some people, whenever they're diagnosed with cancer, they're in the state of denial. Did you also experience that?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was, I don't even know if denial would be the word for me. I think it was just more of that. How does my past life before cancer match up with this new life where I'm suddenly, it was like, it's just this very jarring juxtaposition. You go from cruising along to all of a sudden scheduling a surgery, life-saving surgery and chemotherapy. And that's where the anxiety and the depression started to sink in for me. So I had surgery within like 3 weeks of diagnosis, fast, 2 or 3 weeks. Very fast. And then I did chemo, and then I was lining up for my first liver surgery. And that was the time when I checked out. Like I got very depressed. I got very anxious, and I withdrew from everyone. I really just spent time on the couch or on the bed. I wasn't engaged with my family. I was very depressed. And Rich, to your point,
yeah,
I didn't know that was normal at the time, because when you look around, excuse me, when you look around society, you don't see the depression, talked about that much when it comes to cancer. You just see all the positive stories, like everyone's rocking, everyone's doing great, and we're fighting, and we're running 5Ks, and we're we got this. And that's not how I felt at all. And I felt ashamed for that. I'm like, am I the only person struggling with depression and anxiety going through cancer? That can't be possible.
Yeah.
and Trevor, when you said, am I alone? That's the key word there. That really, we're talking about the next segment of the show about how we're going to talk about the man up cancer,
right.
Your advocacy. But how does cancer journey of being a male, a little bit different perspective from female in our society right now? If you don't mind, give this kind of
absolutely. I mean, in the culture I was raised in, for a male to ask for help was kind of frowned upon, or for a man to need help. Whereas, excuse me again, it was just, if you get knocked down, you brush yourself off and you get up, you cowboy up, that kind of thing. It's kind of a shameful thing if you say, hey, I'm struggling and I need help, especially with mental health. Right. Sometimes with the physical thing, it's okay. But if you're struggling with mental health, then that's kind of looked upon as a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the culture that I grew up in. Fortunately, though, in my immediate household, my mom and dad definitely let me be vulnerable, and it was okay to cry and that sort of thing. So it was more of outside the house where you got that, like, don't show weakness, don't accept help. And seeing the doctor, like, even stuff like that was like a sign of weakness. So definitely. And whereas we're women in our culture, it is much more acceptable to reach out to your network, to admit that you are going through something and you need a hand. Most men.
Okay to be transparent with your emotions if you're a woman.
Exactly. And even to your closest friends, because there have been studies that show that men, if they're asked, how many close friends do you have that you can open up with about your emotions? And most men will say they do not have a single friend that they do that with, that it's all just guy talk, and women are asked the same question, and they usually say at least one, and usually 3 to 5. So sometimes you got to look at what's actually, a lot of this is reflected in studies. Like it's not just our own experience. We know it from our experience, but we also know it from these reports.
Okay. Now, before we continue with our interview with Trevor, we would like to dedicate a special song for him. And we have a special guest singing artist tonight. Our special guest tonight, she is a registered nurse at Jacobson Memorial Hospital Care Center in North Dakota, and she was born and raised in Oton, Iloilo, Philippines. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the singing nurse, Eleanor Mutia Prudente.
You wake up and the sun does not appear. I will be here. If in the dark we lose sight of love, hold my hand and have no fear. 'Cause I will be here, and I will be here when you feel like being quiet, when you need to speak your mind. I will listen, and I will be here turns to crying, through the waiting, losing and trying, we'll be together. 'Cause I will be here. Just as sure as seasons are made for change, our lifetimes are made for years. So I will be here, and I will be here. You can cry on my shoulder when the mirror tells us we're older. I will hold you, and I will be here to watch you grow in beauty and tell you all the things you were to me. I will be here. I will be true to the promise I have made to you and to the one who gave you to me. Our lifetimes are made for years, so I will be here, we'll be together, 'cause I will be here.
Well, song. Thank you so much, Mutia Prudente. Trevor, what can you say?
I mean, that was stunning. I'm going to have goosebumps for days. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
And I really like the message of the song.
Yes.
Yes. This is actually related to our second segment, and I want to have this opportunity to give a little bit background of what is this about Man Up to Cancer. So Trevor, can you give us some background of how this advocacy with Joe, can you give us a little, because I'm so excited to really share this amazing group of men.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. So Man Up to Cancer is actually kind of a play on words of what I was just talking about. Because when you hear that phrase, man up, usually it just means be tougher, don't burden others, like suck it up and move on.
Be strong.
Exactly. But what I'm trying to do is change the phrase a little bit. So when I'm saying man up to cancer, what I'm saying is it takes strength to face cancer, but you're stronger when you do it as part of a pack rather than on your own. So what I'm saying with Man Up is the most courageous thing you can do is to accept that you're not going to go through this alone, that you need help, you need buddies, and that's okay. So the background of it is basically when I was going through my depression, anxiety so bad, I realized that I needed help. And in fact, my wife kicked my butt to tell me to go get help. So
Did you see counseling? Did you go to a counseling session?
Yes. So I went to group counseling, and then I found an individual counselor. And I also started meeting people, reaching out online to groups where I could connect with other cancer patients who were going through similar things. And so it was basically just getting out of my shell, getting off the couch, like getting out into the world and helping myself say, here's what I'm going through. What do I need to do?
But how bad was your depression at the time?
I couldn't even make a phone call. Doing something like this with you would have been impossible. I mean, I couldn't make a phone call. I was basically not functioning.
But do you mean you're not functioning? You're not eating, you're not socializing, you're not...
Yep, all of the above.
Wow.
Barely eating, no social. It was clinical depression to the point where I was thinking about, I almost had to go into the hospital for my depression. But then is where that breaking point kind of came. And as I started getting counseling, I started to get better.
That depression was caused by the cancer diagnosis.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, no doubt.
Is there any of the medication contributor for that mental health situation?
In terms of causing depression?
Yeah.
It's possible with the chemo.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what it led to was, as I was reaching out for help and going to these places and meeting people online and going to counseling, Rich, I saw that 75% of the people that I would encounter in those spaces were women. There was a great group online called Colon Town that's specifically for colon and rectal cancer patients and survivors. Excuse me. And about 75% of the people who are participating there are women. And I would hear day after day on Colon Town, women would come in and they'd say, I'm trying to get help for my husband or my son or my father because they are isolating and they don't want help, but I need to find out the information to help them. And so this got me thinking, I'm like, I know that these men are out there and they need help and they're struggling like I am, but they're not going to counseling. They're not going to online.
Because men are stubborn.
Bingo, Josie. Exactly. It's the same reason why they don't want to go to the doctor.
Because of the word shame to Josie, right? Because Trevor and I felt that kind of connection of saying, hey, we have to face it. That big S as well, the shame of having that help.
Absolutely. And we're stubborn and we feel, and we just want to go into our man cave and crawl into a hole. But you know what happens when you do that? Lots of bad stuff. Number one, your mental health is not going to improve if you're in isolation. Mental health gets worse. Number two, your relationships crumble if you isolate yourself. And number three, you get bad medical outcome if you isolate and you're not finding out what your treatment options are and you're not asking people for advice and that sort of thing. So I realized that there was a man problem when it comes to facing cancer. And then I thought, well, and my wife has encouraged me this whole way. She's like, you have got to do something to help the men who are isolating because you have the skills and the personality to do it. So we came up with this concept, Man Up to Cancer. And the whole idea is very, very simple. We inspire men to avoid isolation during the cancer journey. That's it. We want men to get out of their man caves, talk with others, and that can look different to any man. Like maybe it's just finding one buddy, or maybe it's joining a big group and getting that support, or maybe it's getting out to an event with someone else who's facing cancer. Whatever it is, but just don't isolate. That's what it's all about.
But Trevor, sometimes it's not easy to convince people or to motivate them to join a support group. How did you turn the adversity around, to have a positive impact with other men?
I think it's all about understanding that there is a large percentage of men who maybe don't feel comfortable sharing their vulnerability in a co-ed space, in a space of men and women. So that's where the concept came up of having a Facebook group that was for men only, because a lot of men are ashamed or they feel embarrassed by going into a group where there are men and women and saying, hey, exposing their deepest fears and vulnerabilities. So that's where the idea came from, to just do a man only group, because there's need for women only spaces and there's need for men only spaces, just like the lodges of the old days, right? Like men would go out hunting to a hunting lodge and spend that time of that bonding and camaraderie. I see Man Up to Cancer as being like the new version. It's kind of like a hangout place for men who are impacted by cancer. Yeah. So there's no expectations or requirements. It's basically just like, hey, here's a place to hang out if you're impacted by cancer. Meet other guys who are going through it. And you don't even need to talk about cancer if you don't want to. You can talk about your hobbies or your life or your kids or all that stuff, because cancer can make a man feel isolated, but then you got to show them that there's a place where they don't have to be. And then when they get in the group, they form real life friendships with these people. And then they can meet up together where they, oh, hey, you live in New York, I live in New Jersey, let's get together. Or you live in DC, let's meet up. And then it becomes real friendships that can sustain people.
Okay. Ed.
Sure. Another follow-up, Trevor. I know, the group has grown significantly thanks to Joe being your right hand.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you don't mind, what's the composition of our group over there? So just to give an encouragement to join. This is a platform you can also invite some Filipino men or
Absolutely.
If you don't mind.
Yes. So the group started. So Man Up to Cancer is a podcast that I've been doing since last July. It's on temporary hiatus, soon to come back. So I have the podcast. I have some public social media, the platform that I use publicly. And then we have the Howling Place Man Up to Cancer Facebook group. And we have we have more than 1,000 members from all over the US and in several countries, including the Philippines. And we are open to all men worldwide impacted by cancer, whether you're a patient, survivor, caregiver. Any man impacted by cancer is welcome to join. We call it the Wolf Pack because we always say it's better to travel in a pack than as a lone wolf. And that's our theme. So the group started, I launched the group right around January 1st, 2020. Joe Bullock, my right-hand man from Durham, North Carolina, hopped on board as the first member and right away just jumped in. And I said, hey, if you're on board for this, I'd love for you to help me because I'm doing all this other stuff. Will you be the lead admin within the group? And Joe was all for it. I like to say, I put up the walls and Joe has filled most of the seats. Mm-hmm. He's so connected in Cancerland. And
is Joe a cancer survivor as well?
He is stage 3B colon cancer. So he's a colon cancer survivor like myself. And he is just the biggest heart of anyone you'll ever know. So the two of us have really tag teamed to make Man Up to Cancer what it is and how big it has grown pretty quickly. And so, the invite is out. Whatever background you come from, whatever nation you come from, Man Up to Cancer, the best place to learn about it and to join the group is just go to manuptocancer.com. That has all the information you need.
Mm-hmm. So as a reporter, at the same time being the founder of this Man Up to Cancer, what was your personal experience in dealing with other cancer survivors or patients?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm getting your question. Could you?
Yeah, you founded this this support group, right? Mm-hmm. So as a reporter, of course, you are in the business before, telling a story. What was your personal experience with these people?
So now what I'm doing is I'm using my journalism skills to tell the stories of the people in the group. So, and I haven't done that as much as I'd like to recently, but for a lot of the first part of doing it, I would write profiles or do profiles about our members. Mm-hmm. That gave me a chance to use my skills as a listener and get to know them and then share their stories on our website and through the podcast. So the podcast for me is the biggest thing for my journalism is just, I'll have members of the Wolfpack come on and others too, doctors, specialists, all kinds of people throughout the cancer world, mm-hmm. but bringing those people on and asking them, just being a journalist with them, asking them about their lives and about their journeys. And those are really powerful conversations like we're doing here tonight.
Yes.
On the Man Up for Cancer, Man Up to Cancer group, do you guys, during this pandemic, have you guys done any virtual meetup type of sessions?
Yes, absolutely. We have at least one Zoom call a week. It's just usually just like an open chat.
Yeah.
Once again, Joe has been instrumental in leading that because I've been, again, a lot of my time, unfortunately, has spent with treatment and side effects.
Of course.
So others, Joe, and now we have other admins, a lot of other great admins coming in who are taking the ball and rolling with it. And
Yeah.
so at least one Zoom call a week, and then sometimes more than that. And we usually have, we've had times where we've had almost 30 men on a single Zoom call talking to each
How-
other, which is pretty cool.
So Trevor, how do you guys measure the result?
I think I just measure, I don't do any metrics with this. I measure the result on the friendships that are happening in the group. To me, it's all about quality over quantity. Like, yeah, I'd love to grow the group, but really what I want to do is reach the people who need it most. So it's all about the men out there who maybe were in that place I was at and feeling that isolation. Like, those are the people that I really want to reach. And I do get testimonials. We get testimonials all the time where people will just email or PM me and tell me how impactful the group has been. People have literally said that this is the thing they've been looking for the past several years.
Absolutely.
And to me, to hear that individual, that's what it's all about. I'm humbled by it.
Yeah.
And I get as much out of it. Like, I get as much out of it as anybody. I didn't have a bunch of support at the beginning in terms of people going through the same thing. And now I have more support than I could ever imagine. If I'm having a down day, I had a rough month last month, very rough with my chemo. And I felt the support of my group the entire time.
Did you meet some of them in person?
Yes. And Joe came up from North Carolina and we had a nice visit for a couple days up here. And oh my gosh, I'm sure I've met more, but I'm having chemo brain at the moment. And we do have plans for like larger meetups where we can gather more of our group together at one place and just have a good old time.
Yeah. Are you thinking about, because I know Man Up to Cancer, over 1,000 in membership, just on the Facebook group.
Yes.
And they're all over the place. I hope do you have any encouragement with them? Like, in their little pockets of cities or states or
That's
whatever.
what they're thinking. Joe is facilitating with the North Carolina area, Florida. So it is really amazing. I mean, I recently joined almost like 3 months ago, and I said to them, I wish you guys exist 2015. But I said, it's always the perfect timing. And I want to ask this question, actually, Trevor. So I know there's a lot of men in our group who, made impact to us personally, emotionally. Example is Jared, his courage. And so I just want to honor them. There's a lot of them. Alex. So if you don't mind, just give those men who really keep us. And it's not about with this KFG, that word that everybody wants to have that, a secret. They're saying, what's your code?
Oh, the KFG?
Yes.
Yes. So KFG is our kind of our
KFG, not KGB.
No.
I know, not KGB.
KFG is our tagline. That's our slogan. And it means, I don't think I can say the middle word fully on the air, but it means keep effing going. And basically it's just that reminder to, no matter how much you're in the muck and mud and slogging it out and you're fighting, that if you think of your pack and you think of your people, that you have the strength to KFG, to just, even if that just means holding on for that next hour, that you can do it. And it does come from honoring those that we've lost. See, we've lost about 30 members of our group along the way. And, it's hard to form these friendships in these groups and then lose them. But it's always better to have had these friendships, to have loved and lost, than to have never had these friendships at all. And we know that a lot of people in our group are going to that transition point and they are going to pass away, and we're walking each other home. That's what we do. Some of us are going to survive. Some of us are not. That's the reality of cancer.
Yes.
And I think it's a beautiful thing to have a group like this, that we can be there for one another like that. And so to honor those people, to honor those great warriors that we have lost, we say KFG.
Very nice.
Love it.
So, Trevor, what does cancer treatment feel like for you now?
Well, I was on immunotherapy for about a year and a half, which is harnesses the body's own immune system to fight cancer, which was great. And the side effects are generally a lot lower than conventional chemotherapy. So now unfortunately, I've had progression. I have a tumor, a pretty large tumor in my abdomen that has been stubborn, unfortunately, and it's been growing, and the immunotherapy wasn't working. So now I'm back on the conventional, I'm calling it the kitchen sink.
There you go.
Chemo, because it's pretty harsh. So that's why last month adjusting to this new chemo was very difficult for me. A lot of times it was a lot of sickness, and so again, having to spend time away from the kids, away from the family, the wife. That's very difficult.
Yeah.
But we know that it's the step I need to take right now. And I hope that we hope that it's a short-term step to get me to the point where I'm a candidate for surgery on that tumor. So cancer care for me right now is tough, but I have the support of, look, I have your support. I have the Wolfpack support. I have a great family and community. I'm lucky. And that's another thing about Man Up to Cancer is that there are so many men in our group who don't have that support system. Many of them are on their own.
Yes,
or maybe
and they feel alone.
Yes. So for people who feel alone, they need places, especially online and especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
They need you. Your community, I'm sure, in the pandemic has relied on you big time.
Yes, and we all need connections.
Yes.
Trevor, one thing that I can tell you, Man Up to Cancer just extended another whole family over here at FACC.
Thank you. Oh, that's great. And same to you guys.
Yeah.
Hopefully your family at Man Up to Cancer can hear that and knows that. So
there'll be more coming of them. I'm telling you.
And I have a question.
Be coming in the show.
And I have a question for you, because I know, that the minority population in the U.S. generally does not participate in support groups or online support groups, especially as much as the majority groups. So is the macho culture similar for the Filipino culture as well?
It's
Yes.
very strong.
And also the culture of Filipinos, we are a little bit, reserved in terms of telling everyone about our health issues. You know what I'm saying?
More private. Yeah.
And for men, we have this culture called yes, honey. whatever the honey.
You need the approval of the Speaker of the House.
I see.
Speaker of the house.
I'm familiar with that.
So they do it, whatever the honey say.
And that's why, Trevor, we're doing a lot of educational outreach and really awareness. And that's why we're also doing some of the research advocacy, because now we also form an official medical advisory boards from different specialization of cancer, because, we said our community is a unique challenges as well. So, I was open to the public, telling my story that I was looking for a donor match. It was very difficult to find that. So a lot of the minorities struggling, not just cancer, but also different other blood disorders, challenges. So in COVID-19 was the plasma.
Oh my gosh.
That was the story that in the cancer, where everybody will go and donate their blood or whatever in order to save lives. But you hit the nail as well. We have that.
And by the way, Trevor, you look great, huh?
Yeah, thank you.
He looks great.
So everybody.
Thank you for saying that. So I intentionally. So when I was on immunotherapy, I intentionally gained about 25 pounds because I said, I will probably have to go back on chemo and I'll lose that all. So I had to get a buffer.
Good job.
Yeah. By the way, is cancer, do you have a history of cancer or?
So both my grandparents on my dad's side, they did have colon cancer, but only late age, like 60s, 70s. Nothing early, nothing young onset. No.
So are you being watchful now of your diet?
I am. Yep. I'm watchful of my diet. I have a genetic, they found out that I have a genetic condition called Lynch Syndrome.
Yes.
And Lynch Syndrome basically is a genetic glitch where my body doesn't repair problems as well. So if I have cell problem, that's basically what my doctors are saying. Why I developed cancer early age is because I have a DNA problem where I don't make a correction. So that's one good thing is I've been able to share that information with all of my relatives so that they can get tested and checked for Lynch syndrome. And many of them have it. And now they know to get their cancer screenings early. Anyone with any genetic issues or family history, get your testing done.
Early prevention, Trevor. That is amazing.
Oh my gosh. Prevention is so much easier. The best way to you do not want to get to the point, if you can, especially for colon cancer, if you can get it before it reaches stage 4, you're looking good.
Yes. One last question. At the moment,
yes.
Do you have any fears?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any fears at the moment?
I have fears that pop up, but I don't dwell on them. Once in a while, I'll have a wave where I'll have that fear come up.
Say hi to it. That's it.
I say hi to it, and it's always about my family, my wife and my daughters, and wanting to be there for them. And so I'll feel it. I say hi to it, and then I'll let it pass.
Thank you so much, Trevor.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
You are such an inspiration for everyone.
Josie, thank you. You guys are inspirational as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
We are very thankful for you.
Thank you so much to all our followers, listeners, and viewers dito po sa PHLV Radio. Maraming salamat sa inyong pakikinig and of course sa panunood ng On the Air with FACC. Thank you so much, Ed, and see you again next week. And Emmerich.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Trevor.
Filipino American Cancer Care has just brought you On the Air with FACC. Tributes and support to those impacted by cancer. On the Air with FACC, the Filipino American Cancer Care on PHLV Radio. This is your Filipino radio experience in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio.